To my knowledge, he was. But have we heard from Michael? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's been going directly in 3 months. 1 minute. Yeah. I believe. Right, Joe? CIRE month actually has been directly. Well, when we get the monthly,
Yeah.
it says have a CIRE up there now.
Holy cow, where are we at? We're not using this, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. What? So was this from the 28th?
Hard copy would be preferable.
There it is, 23rd? No, 28th. Amended special. All right, Joe, we'll go ahead and if there's a motion to reconvene this meeting from recess, we will do so. I'll make a motion that we reconvene. How about that?
Sorry.
You're all right. There's a motion and a second on the floor to reconvene the policy and governance meeting. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are back in session. Chantel, item number 2.
Okay, I have somewhat of a draft if you would like a hard copy.
This is the one that you mailed out this morning? Ah, I got one. Thank you.
I wasn't sure. I was running a little behind this morning, so I put together my notes in an email. I'll try not to rehash those again, but mainly I was able to talk with Accenture yesterday at 3 p.m. So we were able to go over everything verbally through the phone call, but I wasn't able to capture all of it in this document. There's a few things that I can just tell you that they were agreeable to most things, and let you know which parts that they are still working on. Most of it minor. So we moved the term provision from the scope of work into the agreement, and only one minor change was a statement at the bottom. This was mentioned in policy and governance. The rates outlined in the original agreement will remain fixed and will not increase in any future agreement extension. I had proposed the word fee and they changed it to rate. I think they just an interpretation of the word. And so they were agreeable with how that is outlined there in the green. It does mention 3 additional years as options for renewal.
Joe, I don't think you were here yet. She actually has you probably saw an email. She's got a phone call with Accenture at 10. So my thought would be to wait until after that phone call. Are you available? She also has a pre-bid meeting at 2 o'clock at District 2. How long do your phone calls usually last?
I would hope that this call that I have scheduled today with Accenture is they needed more time to review the scope as it was proposed to them, just to go over all the different points that were presented. And also, my hope was that I would be able to today tell you what their response is regarding the pricing model, and then take your feedback back to them at the 10:30 calls, because they're waiting on us to see what direction we want to go in.
So the call at 10 or 10:30?
The call is scheduled at 10:30. As soon as the meeting is over, I'm calling them. So
Okay.
I just gave a little bit of a cushion with my scheduling with them.
Scope of work is what was in the RFP.
Yes, and they
aware of it. That's what they bid on.
Yep, they were very agreeable to. They saw the language where it's incorporated into the RFP, but since we outlined all 32 bullet points, they just wanted more time to look at that since the call was later in the day.
That's fine.
Not that they were not agreeable, they just wanted time.
So, Miles, I was actually going to ask if we could recess so it works out well. I want to read these changes. But with regard to the scope of work and the price that they bid, the price that they put in, the 198, I think,
Yes.
is based upon however many items were in the RFP.
Yes.
Okay. So originally when the document was presented, it had a much pared down scope of work, which in my mind should correlate with a much reduced monthly fee, because they're not providing all of the services that were outlined in the RFP. So going forward, given that the county has not officially determined what programs we might want to do, the exact nature of the work that they'll be performing, even if those tasks are listed in the scope of work or the RFP, it would seem that the price would need to be adjusted accordingly going forward once it's determined what the county is actually going to do, right? If we're just asking them to help us with one thing, the reporting requirements, everything that they would be performing and helping us do, research, all of that, in my mind, would seem to be greatly reduced, as opposed to if we were running multiple programs. For instance, we were doing a small business program again. We were doing nonprofit assistance. We were doing assistance to those who are experiencing homelessness, or we were doing some of the things that are allowable for communities that have been severely impacted, right? There's some things that that the legislation allows. So part of this would, we need to reach an agreement, but both sides need to recognize that ultimately, depending on what the BOCC asks them to do among that menu of items, that the fee may have to be changed accordingly. Are they
They're
aware?
they're
And
definitely flexible with contract price, and they're flexible with contract term, how long that price lasts for before it needs to be reviewed again.
well, right now, we're looking at them performing all of these services,
Right.
right? So that's $198,000 a month. But as we begin to meet and discuss, and the board begins to figure out, and by the board I mean the BOCC, decide how they want to proceed in developing a program around the ARPA funds, that will impact the amount of work that the consultant would be doing on our behalf, which in my mind would also necessitate us to readjust the fee once we get the initial contract in place. Is that
Yes, I think that's
a fair statement? Okay, I just
fair.
want to make sure they're aware. Just because we have a 32 or 35 items, we may not be asking them to do all
Right.
of those at some point in time.
I think from the conversation I had yesterday, their position is that they're looking at this as a much bigger picture than like what you're saying it could the reality be in the near future once the BOCC determines a few things.
Right.
So they
Okay.
they
So-
want that to be reflected here, that they would be doing everything under the umbrella.
So could you do that?
From what I was calculating so far is to calculate how many months are left until June 30th, and that would be your not to exceed for the first term.
Well, when you're talking about, and you had mentioned 168,000, but whether it's 198, 1, whatever.
Correct.
Same thing. Monthly, and then you do need the total for the year.
Correct.
Of course, but instead of saying 100 monthly, say up to monthly, to not exceed, then you just say that 198 times 7 months. But
That the rate would be
But
fixed.
the language in the document, and Cody, that would be easy, I think. But the language in the document requires any change in the scope of the work to be done as an amendment to the original agreement, which we would take care of that at that point in time in my mind.
Changing the amount at the time of amendment.
So you wouldn't be changing the scope, you would just be changing the actual work. They still have the
Well,
requirement to do all those things
what-
in the scope. And the other thing that you
What I don't think the county needs to do, I'm one person, is pay $198,000 for the life of the contract if we're not utilizing the full range of services that we requested a proposal for.
Completely agree. You got 32 bullet points. Are they interested in pricing each one of those 32 bullet points for the month? Say if we're doing bullet point 1, it's 5,000, 2, it's 3,000. And then for that month, they say, okay, we did these 13 bullet points. These bullet points were individually priced.
And, I recognize this is new ground I don't recall that we really ever done a contract like this where we were seeking consulting services. Closest thing might be an engineering agreement. But here, we're really starting from scratch in terms of what it is the board might ultimately decide they want to do in terms of programs related to these funds. So we need to have the contract in place.
So does Joe's concerns make sense to you on how to convey those to Accenture? It is, as we ramp up, your workload's going to be very minute. What we have an issue with is paying $198,000 for pushing a button on a screen that says no action taken or no action needed.
Right. And I actually I feel like I was under that impression prior to now, and I communicated that yesterday during my call.
Okay.
And their response to me was if they could keep the same pricing model they would be happy to negotiate the price based on deliverables or scope or services. Their concern is changing from a lump sum rate to an hourly
But
schedule.
what Joe's talking about is 1 month, they do an amount of work that's $198,000. Another month, they did $65,000. Another month.
Oh, I
they did
see.
$32,000. So it should be an adjustable.
Each month.
Each
I'm
month should
sorry.
be
Okay, I
adjusted.
thought you meant
Yes.
each amendment. Okay.
Yeah, no, monthly invoice. To that though, and one of the reasons I like capping it is that there are gonna be those months that they're at 250,000 instead of 198. So,
Right, so it's
and I'm sure that that's what their argument's gonna be to us. They're gonna come back and they're gonna say, well, there's gonna be times that we overwork the $198,000. And I understand that. That's just the way that works in the
Which, whatever the billing may be, they all are subject to the not to exceed amount
Yes.
for the term.
Really
except
begs the argument of billable hours being a better gauge of the actual amount of work being performed. And
I
we
had-
would provide, and I'm not on the calls with them, but I'm still having a hard time understanding when you provided us a billable hour rate for all the way from a top level person to a clerical person, how that is not a better method.
I asked that question. The answer I received was they believe in the best interest of the county that a fixed flat fee for service to be treated much as a retainer, so that way they can do whatever the county asks of them in their 2-week reporting. It's in the contract that every 2 weeks that they have a report of tasks that they are fulfilling for those, excuse me, for those 2 weeks. Whatever that entails will be accomplished to justify the value of their monthly fee, of their fixed monthly fee. I asked them to present something that I could measure because I wouldn't be able to measure the value of each individual task without having some schedule. And they said that that is something that they would like to discuss further.
Well, they've been listening to us. You're about to have a phone call with them, perhaps get a little more clarity and something better for us, something for us in writing to review regarding this issue would be beneficial if they can provide that.
Okay.
It would be helpful.
What I'd like to know is if they're not using $198,000 when they invoice us. Maybe this is the way to come at this. When they invoice us, are they going to itemize the invoice, or is it just going to say services provided $198,000?
It'll be the lump sum, and it'll be the 2-week reports that they're using as their itemized justification.
What are they going to expect of us? I mean, the way the contract's right now, we're going to pay $198,000 for them to, again, click a button, hit send us a document that says no action has been done. That's where the heartburn and the rub lies.
When I asked that same question, their response was that even though that does have a value, the systems and the reportings that they have and have developed, a great value is their advice to the county that comes along with it, and that is something that may not be able to be put on paper or measurable.
But that's what we're paying for.
Why can't it be put on paper?
Yeah.
Well, that's
And
They could if it was billable.
if they were
To
out,
our advice.
Okay, so
let's
and they're not set up to measure.
let's look
those
at
hours.
letting Chantel get to them.
Yep.
And get some questions answered, and then possibly reconvening today or tomorrow. Again, she's got a 2 o'clock pre-bid at District 2. She said she could reschedule. I've got a noon that I can't miss.
We know
If
for
we
sure
wanna-
when District 2 will be available.
Tomorrow.
then I would suggest tomorrow morning. Same
There-
time?
Let. Yes, sir. 9 o'clock. I'm good with that. Can be easy. Good.
Make a motion that we recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. That would be Thursday, March the 3rd at 9 a.m. in this room.
There's a motion, and I will second. Motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion clearly passes. We stand in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning in the same room. Thank you for coming, Chantel.
Chantel,
Look
thank
forward
you.
to the next email.
Thank you.